So I'm going to start this physical assessment today. I've already washed my hands, so I'm going to get started with my patient today. Can you tell me how old you are?
I'm 21.
Okay. Do you know where you are?
In my house.
Okay. And do you know what year it is?
2018.
Okay, good. So she is alert and oriented ×3. This patient appears her age and her developmental stage as well. She appears well nourished, and I don't see any limitations in her mobility. Her affect appears to be broad and flat expression. She seems to follow commands, and she speaks very clearly also. She seems to have good hygiene as well. So that is for the general inspection part. Now we're moving on with the skin. I'm going to ask to see your hands. I'm going to look at her nails, and they seem to be nice and healthy, well taken care of. There's no clubbing of the fingernails, and her skin color is pink or normal for her ethnicity. The hair distribution in her arm seems to be good, and her hand is warm to the touch. I'm going to also feel her pulses right here. Okay, moving on to the other hand. Okay, good. Now I'm going to inspect her scalp, which seems to be good. Her hair is healthy, as I said before. So that is good. I'm going to move on and feel her temporal pulses, one at a time. On the other side. Okay, good. I'm going to palpate her temporomandibular joints. Okay, now I'm going to assess cranial nerve 7. So I'm going to ask you to raise your eyebrows, and you're going to feel some pressure against it. Good. Can you shut your eyes now? Also going to feel some pressure. Now can you blot your cheeks? And lastly, can you smile? Okay, good. Now, I'm going to move on to the eyes. I'm going to assess cranial nerve 2. So I'm going to ask you to look at my nose. And I'm going to ask you, how many fingers do you see?
Plus or one?
One and one? Okay.
Two.
Okay, good.
Three.
Okay, good. That's for assessing the visual field. Now I'm going to assess her eyelids, which appear to be symmetrical. And I'm going to look at the conjunctiva, which is, I see normal reflection on both sides. Okay, good. Now I'm going to assess the pupils. Okay, now I'm going to ask you to follow the pen. Good. Pupils appear to be equal, round, reactive to light and accommodation. The pupil size appears to be smaller than 2 millimeters, and the sclera is white. Okay, so now I'm going to take this ophthalmoscope, and I'm going to assess for the red reflexes. Okay. I'm going to get a little bit closer and look at the vessels inside the eyes. Okay. Okay, so now I'm going to ask you to follow the pen and touch your nose. Follow it. touch your nose, and then touch the pen with the same hand.
With the same pen? Okay.
Good. Okay. Now I'm going to ask you to follow the pen just with your eyes. Okay, good. Next, I'm going to look at her nose inside. The septum seems to be midline. The nasal mucosa is intact, and both nares seem to be patent. So now I'm going to look at the external ears. I see no scarring and no lesions anywhere. Now, I'm going to take the otoscope and look inside her ear to the ear canal and the tympanic membrane. This way. Okay. So next, I'm going to look inside the mouth. Can you say ah?
Ah.
Okay. Buccal, the mucosas are intact. They're pink and they're moist. Can you stick your tongue out? Okay, good. And I'm also going to look at the uvula in the back. Okay. Now I'm going to take these two to check for gag reflex. And it's there. And I'm going to ask you to swallow this one.
The whole?
Like just a little bit. Okay, good. Alright. Now can you say A,
A,
E,
E,
I,
I,
O,
O,
U?
U.
Okay. And that is what you do, some of the assessments that you do to assess the cranial nerves 9, 10, and 12. Okay. So next, I'm going to look at your neck. I'm going to palpate the carotid arteries and listen for bruits. Okay, good. I'm going to palpate for the trachea, which seems to be midline, and try to feel for the jugular veins. Okay. Now, I'm going to feel for, in the back over here, I'm going to feel for the thyroid gland. And I'm going to listen to the back of your lungs. Can you take a deep breath? Good. Deep breath. Deep breath. Deep breath. I'm inspecting the thoracic cage, and it seems to be, it expands evenly, symmetrical. Respirations are in control, non-labor breathing. So now I'm going to assess for tactile firmness, and I'm going to put my hands in the back, And can you say 99?
99,
Okay.
99, 99.
Okay, good. Now I'm going to feel for the spinal process all down the spinal cord, the vertebrae. Okay. Now I'm going to assess the front as well. Gonna listen to your lung sounds. And one. I'm also going to assess for tactile primitives on the front side. So can you say 99?
99, 99,
Okay.
99, 99.
Okay, good. Respiration seemed to be even as well. Non-labor breathing, like I said. Chest wall expands evenly and symmetrically. So I'm going to move on and feel for the heart.
Man, you want me to stand?
No, with that.
Oh.
Okay. I'm going to put my hands over her chest so that I can feel the pulse, the apical impulse on the side. Now I'm going to listen to the heart sounds, starting with aortic, pulmonic, tricuspid, and apical. Okay, good. Now I'm going to move on to the abdomen. I'm going to inspect first and see how the skin is looking, any lesions, any masses that seem to pop out, but I see none of that. So next, I'm going to listen to the bowel sounds and the vascular sounds. Bowel sounds are active, and so now I'm going to palpate lightly on the abdomen. Now I'm going to palpate a bit more deep into to feel the liver, the spleen, and the kidneys. Now for the kidneys. Now, in this position, I'm going to ask you to raise your hands. Okay, good. And you do some resistance. Push it down, good. Push them up. Push up against my palms. Push against them. Okay, good. Now I'm looking at the muscle strength, the range of motion, and any weaknesses in any of the upper extremities. They seem good. Okay, so now I'm going to palpate the brachial pulse on both sides and the radial pulse. Okay. Now I'm going to ask you to raise your legs. As well. Good. Now can you push up? Good. Push down. Good. Okay. Can you pull it, fold your knees, bend your knees? Okay, good. I'm going to feel for the popliteal pulse right here. And I'm going to feel for the post-tibial pulse as well. And the pedal pulse. I'm going to take my pen light to check for the Babinski reflex. Okay, good. Okay, now I'm going to ask you to sit down.
Can I?
And I'm going to ask you to walk across the room. And I'm going to observe the gait. The gait seems to be steady. I don't see any tremors or any involuntary movements. Can you walk on your tiptoes?
Walk?
On your tiptoes? Okay, good. Good. Can you walk on your heels? Okay, good. Can you bend your knees? Good. Can you touch your toes? Okay, good. Can you stand with your eyes closed? Okay, and I don't see any movement while she's having her eyes closed, which means she's been balanced, and her neurological, I'm assessing the neurological part of her, and I think that will be all. That will be the end of this assessment. Thank you for your
You're welcome.
patient.